Earthworks Audio is a proud sponsor of the Tech Arts Podcast. From front of house to center stage for over 25 years, Earthworks microphones have sculpted the sounds of your favorite concerts, venues, and performances. Capturing emotion with sound. Earthworksaudio.com.
From sold-out stadiums to intimate live performance venues, sound engineers agree on one thing for the best digital mixing consoles for live sound. The only name that matters is Digico. As the recognized worldwide standard for live audio mixing, Digico consoles are renowned for their industry-leading sound quality and ease of use. Whether your application is in a church, broadcast, theater, corporate, sports, or installed sound, Digico offers compact and affordable products. From the S21 all the way up to the pioneering power of the Quantum 852, Digico delivers the workflow, the feature set, and the absolute reliability that the world's biggest tours and programs have come to rely upon. If you're looking for a sound console, look to Digico for your answer. For more information on Digico, go to digico.biz. That's digico.biz.
This podcast is brought to you by AC Americas, a distributor of lighting, audio, and video solutions. acamericas.net. This is the Tech Arts Podcast, where we talk about tech, leadership, and all things that concern church audio, video, and lighting.
Welcome to the Tech Arts Podcast and the Earthworks Audio Studios. My name is DL. So glad to have you joining us today. Buckle up. Today's episode is going to level up your ProPresenter game. Our guest is a true ProPresenter expert, ready to share insider tips you can use right away. He will be with us today, and he'll be at CFX, so be sure to register for that by going to churchfacilitiesexpo.com. And stick around, because in just 20 minutes, we've got a bonus segment packed with mixing, microphone, and tech wisdom you don't want to miss. But right now, have you ever thought, why is tech ministry so confusing? Have you ever wondered if there was a resource on ProPresenter that can help you take it to the next level? Well, today's guest can do just that. Please welcome to the Tech Arts Podcast from Trinity Digital Media, Paul Clifford. Hey, Paul.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your company. What do you do? How do you do it? How does it help churches?
Yeah, so I help churches reach their redemptive potential using technology, especially ProPresenter, some with live streaming, just all that fun stuff.
So when we were emailing back and forth, your middle name is Allen, and I think I spelled it like the Paul Allen from Microsoft. So let's just clear up all the confusion. I have to ask, are you a billionaire that owns part of Microsoft?
No. And I wouldn't trade places with him, because I think he passed away fairly recently. So I know that I've got eternity with Jesus, but I'm not in a hurry to get there, because that's not how eternity works. So I want to spend some time here.
Yeah, he did pass away a few years ago. So we've confirmed it. You're not a multi-billionaire, but Microsoft has this program called PowerPoint. And why is ProPresenter better than PowerPoint? So I'm a church sitting out there. I'm like, why do I need to invest in ProPresenter? I got PowerPoint already. I work with a few churches that use PowerPoint, and I've always encouraged them to switch over to ProPresenter. So answer that question. Why is ProPresenter better than PowerPoint?
Well, first off, ProPresenter is more powerful than PowerPoint, despite the name. That ProPresenter allows you to do things that you just cannot do in PowerPoint. So, perfect example. Text over any video. You can kind of put one slide over one video in PowerPoint, but it's less than ideal. And that's really, that's table stakes for worship software. That and the ability to do an outline on all the letters. Just this is something basic that ProPresenter, for example, has been able to do for, I don't know, over a decade. And PowerPoint is still stuck doing basic presentations. But it can grow with you too. So if you have a live stream, you can live stream from within ProPresenter. If you want to send the video out of ProPresenter and key it using a video switcher, ProPresenter can do that as well. So it's able to do some basic stuff that a lot of churches would like to do, and some stuff that churches, as they grow, they find that they want to do more and more of. So that's why I think that it's just such a great choice.
Yeah, you can make it really, really simple and then let it grow with your technology as your tech grows at the church. I find that ProPresenter is a really easy to use interface, but then that has some problems as well. And that is, it's so easy that I don't think people take advantage of what ProPresenter can do. So tell us a little bit about the integrations that make it easier for churches.
Okay, so first off, let's say that you're bringing in a song. So I just did this last Thursday night at my church. And if there is a song that you need to bring in, and we're not talking about a hymn, if it's, Amazing Grace, by all means, go out, do a search for that song online. You'll be able to bring it in, no big deal. That's in the public domain, so it's no thing whatsoever. But when it comes to modern worship songs, you can run into some problems. First off, there's a copyright issue there. So with ProPresenter, we've got a couple of other services that you can use to bring stuff in. You've probably heard of CCLI, the Church Copyright Licensing Organization. Well, they have a feature called SongSelect, and SongSelect is built right into ProPresenter, so you can just do a search, Command F on a Mac, Control F on Windows, search for the title, and then just bring it directly in. So that's really nice. There's another service called Multitracks that does something similar, but it also, in addition to just bringing in the words, it enables you to also bring in chord charts along with it. So you could have a separate screen for the people that are in the front leading, and they could see the chord charts that go along with that specific song on the particular syllable that you do the chord change on.
So hold on one second. So not only can you have the stage display that I think we're all familiar with ProPresenter, where you can display something different, it kind of sits out into the auditorium. You can display something different for those that are on the platform than for those that are in the auditorium. But you're saying you can also have the chord structures triggered for the band and the singers as well, straight off of ProPresenter?
That's right. And some people might be thinking, well, we wouldn't want the traditional chord charts. Our musicians really like Nashville numbers. Well, no problem. You can change that. Well, what if we rather would have the numerals? Okay, yeah, no problem. You can change that. Yes, but we're an a cappella church, and we would like to see like do, re, mi. No problem. You can change that. So it's perfectly flexible for any of those situations. And that's just one of the examples of the things that makes ProPresenter great, is just all the flexibility that's available within it.
Is that easy to set up, or is it really difficult?
No, it's super easy. Probably the hardest part is signing up for the appropriate stuff on the Multitracks website. And once you've done that and put in your credit card and everything, because it is a separate service, But once you've done that, you just go into ProPresenter, and there's a place in ProPresenter settings where you put in the login and the password just like you would on any website that you log into, and it just works from there on. There's even a predetermined stage screen layout that has that all set up, so you don't even have to go through the trouble of going, okay, now how do I add the chord charts? Well, there's a preset, so you just add that preset and it's all there. And from there you can tweak it, but you don't even have to. Just it will work from there on.
And that's just one of the integrations. What are some of your other favorite integrations?
Planning Center Online is one of the huge services that we see in church. No pun intended, because they do have a piece called Planning Center Services, and that's what integrates with ProPresenter. So if your church is using Planning Center to schedule volunteers, for example, then you can also use Planning Center to make your order of worship, and you can have that integrating with ProPresenter. And so you can build on one instance of ProPresenter, upload that to Planning Center, and then on another instance somewhere else, whether it's, just going from an office to the worship center, the sanctuary, whatever you call it. Or let's say you're a volunteer and you're at home. Well, you can set it up on the free version of ProPresenter that you can download for your Mac or Windows machine, and then log into your Planning Center from your church and upload it and have those sync. So that's something else that I really like.
So I'm familiar with Planning Center services, so I can essentially build my service. It'll take the songs that I've put in there and get them loaded for me on ProPresenter.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I'm almost speechless of that. I didn't even know about this, and I've been doing this for years and years and years. And how many churches that I visit that I see with Planning Center services and with ProPresenter, and they could be talking to each other and making their lives so much easier. It's in the same way. You kind of just log in on ProPresenter and it takes it over and makes the integration pretty simple and pretty fluid.
Yeah, in the last two major versions of ProPresenter 17 and 18, which have been out for, I guess, about 6 months now, in the settings, it's actually called integrations. So you just go to settings, then integrations, and there's 4 things that you can log into. I've already told you about 3 of them. So we've got Planning Center, Multitracks, or CCLI's SongSelect. Those 3 there. There's one more if you're interested. Resi does live streaming, and you could integrate with that as well. So all kinds of flexibility just with the integrations with these third-party services.
So that's the integrations. I'm familiar with the basic ProPresenter, click the slide, move it forward, you can key it over video, things of that nature. But what are some of your favorite features? What are some features that you're like, man, people don't know about this. I really want to show it to them.
Yeah, so probably my favorite feature, I actually had a tutorial that came out as we're recording this just shy of a week ago, where I talked about, and I didn't even tell you this, but my favorite feature is all the third-party stuff, not the official stuff, but just the fact that there are so many users that love ProPresenter that it augment it. And I don't mean that just because I do training on ProPresenter. There are other individuals that are like, hey, I really need it to do thus and so they figure out and they release something on GitHub. So it's even more powerful than Renewed Vision has allowed it to be directly. The API is really great, but probably the best official feature, I think, is the Reflow Editor. So when I do my trainings, I give this example. Let's say that your worship leader says, yeah, I was watching the live stream of the big church down the street, and they only do 2 lines per slide. Can we do that? Well, a lot of people think, well, yeah, but there went my Saturday. I've got to create a new slide, cut from the old slide, paste in the new slide, and repeat. But in ProPresenter, we have the Reflow Editor that just allows you to go in, click where you want to split the slide, hit a keyboard shortcut, and it splits it. And you can just go through an entire song in maybe just a couple of minutes. And it's just awesome that it does that. And then sometime down the road, when the worship leader says, yeah, that's the old school way, now we want to do more lines per slide. Yeah, no problem. You can go back into Reflow Editor, click where you want to combine 2 slides, and hit the backspace button or the delete button on a Mac keyboard. That's where the backspace button should be, and it will combine 2 slides. So the thing that I really love about ProPresenter is it feels to me, and I said this before I'd met the people behind ProPresenter, but it feels to me like it was written by someone who had done this and saw the problems with using PowerPoint and other business presentation software and said, I'm just going to make this work in a way that makes sense. And that feature, the Reflow Editor, I call it the Saturday saver, because you don't have to spend your entire Saturday reformatting all these songs. You can do it in just a couple of minutes and be done.
Yeah, the Saturday saver. That's a good line. I know so many guys and gals that go in and spend, 3-4 hours on Saturday redoing everything because the sermon notes or the worship slides came in and they have to fix it all. When we were doing the pre-interview, you told me about a feature that you were really excited about called arrangements. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in a lot of churches, what they'll do is they'll have, for example, let's go to Amazing Grace, and then there will be they'll have maybe 5 or 6 entries for the one song in their song library. And so it'll be like Amazing Grace Short, Amazing Grace Long, Amazing Grace Longer Than Long, Amazing Grace Shorter Than the long one, but not as long, not as short as the short one. And it just gets crazy. So with arrangements, you can have one version of Amazing Grace, and then under that, it has different arrangements, and you can call them things that make sense. So growing up in my church, I grew up in a Southern Baptist church. We had Reverend Jerry Douglas, who was our minister of music, and we always sang the first, second, and last stanza of stuff. And I never knew why, but they don't tell you stuff when you're a kid, so you make up reasons. I thought maybe there was some sort of bad theology with the number 3 or something. I didn't know. So if we'd had ProPresenter back in the late 80s, early 90s, then I could have had an arrangement for Jerry that only showed first, second, and last stanzas of Amazing Grace. And then that would be fine. Now, I might have been tempted to only bring in those 3 because we only sang those 3, except for one time when I was in high school on a Sunday night, we sang all 4. To this day, I don't know why we sang all 4 that one occasion, but it was so odd that I remembered it. Well, with arrangements, you can bring in the entirety of the song, even if you think you're never going to sing part of it, and then have it on the odd chance that one time you do sing it all. Maybe something is taking longer than anticipated. So they say, oh yeah, now we're going to sing the rest of it. Well, you don't have to go back out and re-import and do any of that stuff. You can just always do it. So that's something that's really great, is the arrangements feature in ProPresenter for that as well.
Would it be too difficult for you to show that to us on ProPresenter?
Oh, no.
Just pull it up and kind of show people how that works. And the reason why, I worked for churches for 25, 30 years. mostly contemporary services. And it was always frustrating to me how one worship leader would sing it one way and another worship leader would sing it another way. And I think this arrangements feature, you can have worship leader 1 version, worship leader 2 version, and easily go between the two without having to modify. Am I explaining that correctly? You could easily go between the two without having to modify it.
Yeah. So before I click on it, by the way, this is one that I brought in through Multitracks, and I even have the ability to change the key on the fly. So, if the worship leader did say, oh yeah, Becky was supposed to sing it, but now Laura Joe's singing it and she has a slightly different voice, so we're doing it in a different key for the Multitracks thing, I can change that. Like, it's a click. It's so easy. But going to your actual question of arrangements, there's a little icon above the song. I describe it as like 2 arrows pointing in opposite directions with 3 little boxes, like you're reorganizing the slides. Well, that's arrangements. So I can click on that, and we start with the master arrangement that has everything in it. But I have this one that I called full that has some more repeats on stuff. And you'll notice that each of the sections has a different color here, and those correspond to these little banners underneath each of the slides, so I can see where I am. So if I was right here, you can see that this course is highlighted right here to show that. And now I can go down here, I'm on verse 2. But going to your example, let's say you've got 2 different worship leaders. One of them never sings the turnaround, for example. So I can just click on this little drop down, go to new arrangement, and let's call this Becky. And okay, and she never sings that, so that's good. But everything else is fine except the ending. She actually likes to repeat that twice, so I'll just put that in. And now I also have the full version. I can click on that and it just goes back to what it was. Or if next time we have another worship leader, I can click on new arrangement, and let's call that Laura Joe. And I can, for hers, she not only likes doing the turnaround, she does it several times. So I can just drag those in here wherever they go and do it like that. Oh yeah, but she doesn't like verse 2, so I just click on that and it goes away. So I can access that quickly and easily. And over here in the playlist, it actually says which one I have added to the playlist in brackets. So that's something that at a glance I can tell, oh wait, that's not Lord Joe that's singing it. I can fix that by going up here and changing it to the Becky arrangement. And right as we're getting ready to get started, just by glancing, I know that I've got the correct arrangement.
What's really cool is not only can you switch between worship leaders, you can also correct it on the fly pretty quickly. So even if the worship leader changes on the move or during rehearsal, it looks like you can just kind of drag and drop it where you want it, and boom, it's updated just like that.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, yesterday at church, I was running ProPresenter, and I noticed as we were doing our practices that the very last repeat of one of the songs, there was one slide that she wasn't singing. So I was like, okay, I'm going to pay attention to that. And when we went through run through, same thing. So between run through and when we actually did church, I just edited the arrangement so that it was right from then on, and that solves that problem. And in the future, same worship leader does the same song, same way, it should be like that. And we play with the tracks, so chances are it's gonna be the same way next time.
Paul, we have to take a sponsorship break here, but coming up on the other side of these messages, we will find out if Paul is a Mac or a PC guy and why. Plus, we'll pivot to talk about the people aspect of ProPresenter, answering questions like, how do you find the right ProPresenter operator? Should ProPresenter trigger other pieces of tech? And do you consider the ProPresenter Op a part of the worship team? Answers to those questions and more right after these messages from our sponsors. Hang on. He has appeared on NBC, MSNBC, CNBC, evidently all the NBCs. He has also appeared on CNN and Fox News. His work has also been profiled on the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, and the Wall Street Journal. It's our pleasure to have on the podcast today, Phil Cooke. Hey, Phil.
Thank you, David. Thrilled to be here, man. This is going to be fun.
I think so too, man. We're talking to you today because you are going to be at CFX.
Yep.
And we'll be teaching 2 classes that unpack 2 of your books. By the way, if you're listening today and you don't know what CFX is, check them out at churchfacilitiesexpo.com. This conference provides education, connection, and solutions for churches. It's happening this September, and you can sign up at churchfacilitiesexpo.com. So, Phil, before we jump into talking about your CFX classes, can you tell our audience a little bit about what you and your company does?
Well, I come from a producing background, Cooke Media Group. We founded it in Los Angeles 35 years ago, and we produce programming in about 70 countries around the world. We do a lot of documentaries. We've done Super Bowl commercials. We've done all kinds of things, but probably the main thing we do these days, even more, is helping churches use media more effectively. You know, we jokingly say that we help Christians not suck at the media. And if you've ever seen much church media or Christian TV or even movies, you realize we've got a long way to go. And so my passion is to help churches understand that media is the language of the culture today. It's the language we live in today. And if we don't understand how to use that language, we're going to fail. So if we're going to make an impact in your community, if you're going to make an impact in your area or beyond, I think media is really key to that. So we're working with churches every day, helping them use that more effectively.
What I love about your company, too, is, when I go to the website or see the things that you've produced, you take people on a journey, and it's a high quality journey, and you take them to where you want them to go. I think a lot of times in the church media world, they just have an ending. Yes. And it's kind of predetermined.
Yes.
And there's no journey to kind of bring people in. Secular movies bring people in. Yeah. Secular media brings people in. And so I really love that your company does that at a very high level.
Well, that's a great point, David, because it's interesting that every pastor is different. Every church leader is different. And so we try to adapt to whatever your situation is, where you're located, who your staff is, what unique gifts and talents your team brings to the table. So you're right. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. It's a customized experience for every church to help them really reflect their message and vision through the media. So I've never put it that way like you just did, but it was really great.
Yeah, well, let's jump into the CFX thing. So Church Facilities Expo, you're going to be there. You're talking on your 2 books entitled Ideas on a Deadline. Great title, by the way.
Thank you.
And Church on Trial. So let's talk a little bit about these. It feels that like every church is going through a tribulation right now. The church with the big C is always in the headlines every single day. So my question to you is this: how do I avoid crisis in the first place?
Well, it's funny. A lot of the guys that come, a lot of the men and women that come to CFX are going to think, well, church on trial, how to protect your congregation during a crisis is not something that they'd be interested in. But the truth is, you're a leader. If you're in the media, if you're in communication, if you're an executive pastor, whatever staff level you're at in a church, you're a leader. And the more people understand how to navigate a crisis, the better it will be. And you're exactly right, David. Every day we seem to pick up the news and there's some pastor, ministry leader, youth director, someone, and disgruntled in the congregation. Something's gone wrong. And it's not just a moral, sexual, abusive crisis. It's also financial. Somebody told me the other day that $1 billion a year are embezzled from churches in America. And it's also insurance problems. It's when the city tries to encroach upon your property or something like that, or a kid breaks his leg. How do you deal with that if the family sues? So I'm going to be talking about some of the ways to protect your team, your staff. I mean, if whatever level leader you are, you're going to want to come to this because it's how to protect your team from anything happening. I'll talk a little bit about some of the safeguards we've created in our company. I'm not even a church or a ministry. We're a business, but I see this so often. I wanted to protect our team. So it's an important workshop, I think, particularly when you see the headlines today.
Well, I think a lot of people may show up and think, my team is good. No need to worry about them. I fully 100% trust them. How does that thinking get you in trouble?
You know what? It's not if I always say it's not if a crisis will happen, it's when. With social media, for instance, we have so many ways for somebody to say something inappropriate or stupid. It's just so easy to make a mistake. And sometimes it's an honest mistake. It's not necessarily because somebody in your team is evil, but it could be a very, very honest mistake, but it's not going to come out well. So it's funny, when I wrote the book, I saw the story of a church in Alabama, a woman who was their bookkeeper. They all said she's the most trusted person in the entire church. Well, a $75 check bounced one day, and they looked into it and discovered that over the last 5 years, this woman has embezzled $1 million from the church. And she's paid for a couple of houses. She put her kid through college. She bought a car. It's just remarkable. And she's going to go to jail, but she's required to pay it back, but she'll never be able to pay it back. And so that church is going to close because they can't handle that $1 million debt. And so when you see stories like that of the most trusted person in the congregation, you think, okay, we should always be alert because you just never, ever know. And so we'll talk about how to avoid those kind of situations in that workshop.
Yeah. Somebody famous said, I think it was a president, trust but verify.
Yes.
President
right.
Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. So don't ignore those red flags, and that class will help you. So the other class you're teaching on is Ideas on a Deadline, based on your book, Ideas on a Deadline.
Yeah.
So, and again, I got to give you props on that name. That is a really cool book name. But naturally, I'm a tech. So structure and plan, it's key for me, but I've always had creatives who had to be on my team, and I just can't constrain them with structure, or can I?
Well, one of the frustrations that I've seen in the church in particular is, there's a lot of leadership teaching out there. My friend John Maxwell pioneered that. He's done some brilliant things. Others have done brilliant things. But I noticed there's no real information out there on how to lead creative teams, how to lead creative people. And so you may be tech, you may be engineer, you may be a designer, whatever. You could always be more creative in the way you solve problems. I think the ultimate definition of creativity is solving problems. And one of the things I discovered is you can go on Amazon and there's millions of books on creativity. But there was no books I could find anywhere on how to be creative under a deadline, how to be creative when the clock is ticking. And so I think I've done I produced Super Bowl commercials, and I discovered early on that they're not going to change the date of the Super Bowl because I can't come up with a good idea for a commercial.
Phil Cooke needs an extension here.
Yes. And when you had a broadcast TV career like I have, you learn that, man, you have to deliver on a deadline. I spent my whole career delivering on deadlines. So I started putting some of the techniques I've used. And also in Hollywood, I've got so many friends doing major movies. I went to New York to talk to friends who are in the advertising industry at the top level. And I did some research. And so the book is really packed with not just how to be creative, but how to be creative when you need it the most. And let me tell you, as I said earlier, you may not feel like you're a creative person or on the creative team. You may be a tech person or an executive level person. But I'll tell you, you have to have that report by Tuesday, or you have to do that equipment install by September. You have to have their deadlines in every part of our life. And so I just learned some great techniques for, it's not really about waiting for that aha moment or waiting till the idea gods drop a brilliant idea on you. You can have great ideas when you need it the most. So there's some techniques like that we're going to learn in the class. It's going to be a really great time.
Yeah, one thing I've learned too, and you'll probably talk about this in the class as well, is deadlines drive creativity. Deadlines push you to be more creative because you have to hit it at a certain time. But, a lot of people come to me when I was, tech director at a church, and I felt guilty saying no. So I said yes to everything. So what advice do you offer to those who feel kind of caught in that trap? Because they're like, oh, the idea is great. I just have to say yes.
It's funny. That's a chapter of my book, How to Say No Well. In fact, I list about 6 or 8 ways to say no, but do it in a nice way. You don't have to be a jerk, but most people feel that way. And saying no is a huge problem. I think if you can't say no, then after a while, your yes means nothing. And so I do think we need to draw those boundaries. One of the things I've learned is if I'm going to do deep work, I've written 10 books in my career. And to write a book, you have to close the door, you have to put the phone away, turn off social media, and really focus. And to do that, particularly if you're working on a team or in a company or in a church, you need to be able to say, no, I can't do that. I've got to spend some time working on this project. So yeah, learning to shut the door, learning to say no is a real key thing. I think we live in the most distracted world in history, I think, today. One British study says the average person sees about 10,000 media messages every single day. And so, in fact, a study recently indicated we touch our phones more than 2,000 times a day. And so in that kind of world, we need to learn to say no and do it graciously, do it kindly. But at the same time, people need to understand that, hey, the stakes are high. This is important what I'm doing, and I need to be able to focus. So that is funny you say that, because it's a chapter in the book, and we'll certainly talk about that in the workshop, because that's really important.
I'm probably going to come to the workshop just for that. How do I say no? You said you have like 6 or 7 ways to do that.
Yeah.
I got to hear all of them, all 6 of them. How do I nicely say no? Yeah. So everybody, don't forget, Phil will be speaking at CFX. He has a lot more of these insights to unpack there, and you want to come to CFX to hear them. So register today by going to churchfacilitiesexpo.com. CFX is happening September 22nd through the 24th in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Register now at churchfacilitiesexpo.com. Phil, if someone is listening to this and they want to engage with your company more, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, my blog is philcooke.com. My world revolves around that. I'm Cooke with an E. And so philcooke.com, go check that out. But our company site is cookemediagroup.com. Again, Cooke with an E, cookemediagroup.com. And we'd love to chat. You can reach out to me there. At either site, you can reach out to me, and I'd love to chat with you, because helping church media, communication people, even tech people is just really a passion of mine. So I love it. Love to hear from you.
All right, so write this down. For strategy, broadcast video production, or coaching, go to cookemediagroup.com. Their mission is to accelerate your mission. So find out more at cookemediagroup.com. Phil, thanks so much for joining us today, and an even bigger thank you for all you do to serve the church. It's been a real pleasure having you on the podcast.
Well, thank you, David, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at CFX.
Today on our segment, Mic Techniques with Earthworks Audio, we are talking to Suraj, who is with Earthworks Audio, and we're chatting about measurement and Omni mics for the audience. Hey, Suraj.
Hey, how you doing?
Suraj, Earthworks is known for its measurement microphones, giving sound engineers the flattest mic with one of the best frequency responses in the market. For those who are not familiar with these mics, help them understand why they are the best.
Yeah, sure thing, David. The Earthworks measurement microphones were actually our flagship microphone, which this year now we are celebrating 30 years as a company. So these microphones have been around for 30 years. And in those past 30 years, they've kind of become the industry standard in measurement microphones. Like you said, they are the flattest and widest frequency response, with a completely flat response from 3 hertz to 20 kilohertz. They also have extremely high SPL handling, up to 140 dB. And a clean, fast impulse response, which makes them great for time alignment.
Man, I highly recommend you get your hands on one of these mics and use them with your RTA software so you can monitor dB levels and see your room EQ. It will make you a better engineer, as you will be mixing with accurate data. One other thing, Suraj talked about time alignment. That is super important to make sure your subs are aligned with your speakers, and these mics are the best at making that happen. Now, Suraj, let's talk room mics. From the quality of the measurement mics comes some really awesome mics designed specifically for picking up the room and the audience. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that the measurement mics were actually fantastic recording microphones, like a lot of the other microphones we make. So we decided to go ahead and make some Omni mics that are specifically designed to be great for recording in the studio and for live sound capture. And that's why we made our QTC series microphones. The QTC 30 and QTC 40, they look the same as the M23 and M30. They also have a flat frequency response for natural sound. But the interesting thing about them is that they come in matched pairs, so that you can have 2 of the same microphone for stereo recording or for capturing live sound for a live stream, or a concert hall, or a service where you only have 2 microphones, but you really need to preserve every detail of that performance.
So you can use these on instruments as well, like in a studio recording environment, right?
Oh, correct. You can use them as a room mic. You can use them on a drum kit. One of my favorite things I love to do in the studio is that I have a pair of them and I put them about 5 feet away from the drum kit, and then about another 5 feet apart from one another, and kind of angle them like a triangle, and get the floor sound of the drums. It really helps capture the full body of the drum kit that way, mixed with the SR25 overheads.
Measure your room accurately, capture the ambience, breathe life into your recordings by adding air into your streams with Earthworks audio measurement and room microphones. To find out more about these microphones, go to earthworksaudio.com. That's earthworksaudio.com. From sold-out stadiums to intimate live performance venues, sound engineers agree on one thing for the best digital mixing consoles for live sound. The only name that matters is Digico. As the recognized worldwide standard for live audio mixing, Digico consoles are renowned for their industry-leading sound quality and ease of use. Whether your application is in a church, broadcast, theater, corporate, sports, or installed sound, Digico offers compact and affordable products. From the S21 all the way up to the pioneering power of the Quantum 852, Digico delivers the workflow, the feature set, and the absolute reliability that the world's biggest tours and programs have come to rely upon. If you're looking for a sound console, look to Digico for your answer. For more information on Digico, go to digico.biz. That's digico.biz. Right now, let's hear from Paragon 360 and the Paragon Angle.
Working with worship technologies can be fun and rewarding, but it comes with one certainty. Eventually, those systems will need to be upgraded or replaced. Hello, I'm Ryan Cowan, president of Paragon 360, and this is the Paragon Angle. Working with worship technologies can be fun and rewarding, but it comes with one certainty. Eventually, those systems will need to be upgraded or replaced. Systems age, and when it's time for a refresh, choosing the right partner is critical. Today, I'll share 4 key factors to consider to help ensure your project succeeds. First, look for a single source of accountability. Today's audio, video, and lighting systems are very complex. Deploying these systems in a space designed and built for a different era of worship just adds to that complexity. Systems are often vying for the same resources, whether that's structure for rigging, sight lines, or even available budget. Working with multiple integrators splits accountability, risking inefficiency and systems that do not integrate well. There's a big difference between systems that integrate and those that simply don't interfere with one another. A single firm handling audio, video, and lighting ensures a unified design team, delivering integrated systems with seamless results tailored for your space. Next, these complex systems demand high-quality installation to function reliably and meet manufacturer warranty requirements. Does the firm you're considering have a good relationship with their manufacturers? Do they stay up to date with new offerings from these vendors? Do they understand what the manufacturer expects or requires of the installation? Make sure the firm you choose uses installers that carry industry-recognized certifications, such as Certified Technology Specialist, or CTS. Another critical factor is network infrastructure. Today's AVL systems rely heavily on networks. Your integrator must know how to design and manage these networks, whether it's a standalone technical network or one integrated with your corporate IT. The integrator should be able to communicate effectively with your IT team to ensure quality of service and avoid conflicts. A partner who speaks both AVL and IT languages helps to keep everyone aligned. Finally, rigging safety is non-negotiable. As churches rely more on suspended AVL equipment, proper rigging is critical, especially in spaces not originally designed for it. Uncertified or unsafe rigging practices are a liability nightmare. Choose a partner with riggers who are trained and certified by the Entertainment Technician Certification Program, or ETCP, and who follow industry standards. A trustworthy firm will always involve a structural engineer to approve weight load changes. Saving a few bucks on unqualified riggers isn't good stewardship, and it definitely isn't worth the risk. At Paragon 360, we recognized the need for a holistic approach early on in our 25-year history. That's why we developed a team that includes unified AVL design, uses certified installers, understands AVL and IT networks, and prioritizes rigging safety. A partner who checks all of these boxes has your best interest at heart and will stand by you long after the project is complete. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Paragon Angle.
Our main sponsor is Digital Great Commission Ministries. Whether you need help building a team, finding the right gear, or just better understanding the church tech world, DGCM is here for you. Because they are a 501c3 donor-sponsored organization, they come to your church for free and do an assessment of your tech, visitor engagement, and online streaming. Plus, we give away free gear. Be sure to go to audiovideolighting.com and register your email today. This will sign you up for all of the free giveaways and give you first access to everything we offer for free. If you want free resources, training, or consulting, contact Digital Great Commission Ministries today by going to audiovideolighting.com. That's audiovideolighting.com.
This podcast is brought to you by AC Americas, a distributor of lighting, audio, and video solutions. acamericas.net.
Welcome back to the Tech Arts Podcast. So, Paul, we teased everybody with this question, and that is, are you a Mac or a PC guy, and why?
Okay, so I am a Mac guy, and I'll tell you why. As it turns out, I did not start with the Mac. I was on Windows, and I'm the kind of guy that gets arms and elbows into stuff. So it was not unusual for me to be editing the BIOS and doing other stuff like that. Well, when I was in seminary, I have a Master's of Divinity. When I was in seminary, I had a job as the video student worker, and we used Macs there. And so that was the first time I really used a Mac all that much. And I used it for Final Cut Pro for video editing. And I just really fell in love with that software. There were some things that really bugged me. To this day, it still bugs me that on a Mac keyboard, I've got one here, this button, you probably can't see it, but it says delete. It's the backspace key. It should be called backspace.
There's probably a copyright there with the keyboard people.
maybe, I don't know. But there's
I
another
agree with
delete.
you, though. Call it what it is.
There's another delete button, like on this particular keyboard, just diagonal from it, that also says delete, but it does something totally different. It deletes in front, and this deletes backwards, and maybe even call it backwards delete. I don't know. Just don't call them the same thing, because they do different things. Okay. So with that said, I got a Mac so that I could edit video at home, because I was doing some freelance video editing. And when I did that, I noticed some stuff. And the stuff that I noticed, and this is back in Windows 95 days, okay, so, well, Windows 98 XP, in that realm, I noticed that on my Mac, it didn't crash as much. And I noticed that on my Mac, if I did have just a catastrophic failure, reinstalling the operating system was a lot easier. So that was one of the things. But now that I do a lot of ProPresenter, the thing that I'm noticing now is, because you can build a Windows machine, a lot of churches do build Windows machines, but they don't go with, okay, this is someone who has built a ProPresenter Windows machine that is a known good configuration. No, they go with the kid at their church that built this high-end gaming PC who says, oh yeah, this should work. Should work. Fine. But every piece of software is a little bit different. And I just, too often I've seen churches they say, oh, we're saving money on a Windows machine, but they spend more because they get this high-end graphics card that doesn't actually work because it's not supported for some reason, and they spend all this money and everything to end up with a machine that does not work for ProPresenter, as well as a $699 Mac Mini. And so these are the things that get on my nerves. Is occasionally you'll just have someone, oh no, we've got to use Windows. Do you have to? I mean, if it's absolutely the case that every last person on your tech team only uses Windows, they've never touched a Mac, etc., okay, there's a good, valuable reason to do it and go with the known good configuration. But if you're if you're just assuming that they all prefer Windows, don't assume. Ask. You might be surprised at what you find. And I just think that for most situations, I mean, I'm the ProPresenter guy. I bought a Mac Mini, a very inexpensive computer. I did upgrade the RAM a little bit and the storage a little bit, but other than that, it's a very basic machine, and that's the one that I bought, the M4 Mini that just came out in November. And it's working great. It has more than enough screens with some of the peripherals I have, and it's just, as I have it set up with the stuff that I have, I can output to a total of 8 screens, which is actually the total that ProPresenter can do. So that's not even a limitation.
What I tell people is you want to use a tool that best fits the need. And when it comes to ProPresenter, when it comes to a lot of the entertainment applications, the Mac just does a better job. If you're in an office application and you're doing, Microsoft Word and Excel, PCs will sometimes work better. My wife is an accountant. She uses PC all the time, and it's great. But for me and what I'm doing with recording, with kind of the entertainment display stuff, Mac is just the better tool. But we've talked a lot about the tech of this. Let's talk about the actual techs. Not everyone can be a lyrics operator. So for a church tech leader or a pastor who's listening to this, what should they look for in a ProPresenter Op?
Well, one thing that I've seen over and over again is musicians are actually very good at this because they're used to double tracking, they're counting, they recognize some of the little musical things that can be giveaways to say, oh, we're not going to sing verse 2 here, we're going to sing another repeat of the chorus, for example. So musicians are great for that. Also, there's nothing wrong with worshiping. In fact, it's good. But there are some people that cannot dual track. So if the worship music is playing, they will lose their place. And they'll, instead of leading the worship lyrics, they'll get caught in what they're singing themselves, and
get caught up in it and start singing it themselves, and they'll miss slides and they won't stay in the moment.
Right. Yeah. So I think this is actually something that maybe is worth saying, that a ProPresenter operator is, in a very real sense, like a musician. So they are leading, even though typically a lot of the tech people prefer to be like hidden in the back. I'm the exception. I'm kind of an ambivert. I could be an extrovert sometimes and an introvert, but most people tend to like to be hidden in the back. But what they do is actually showing up, and they are leading people in the words. And if they choose the wrong word slide to put up, if they get caught up in the moment and they don't put up the slide, etc., then it could go poorly, and you're distracting people in a way that you don't want to be. So that's why I think that that's a very valuable thing to keep in mind, not only when you're recruiting, but when you're training people to do this.
Yeah, somebody with a musical background, I think, helps. The ability, like you said, for them to understand music. A lot of musicians use in-ears, and I know a lot of ProPresenter stations that have the ProPresenter person wearing in-ears as well, so they can keep into the click track and the guides and things of that nature. And so you want somebody who I think can be used to that and can multitask as well. You answered one of my questions I was going to ask you a little later, but you kind of answered it right there, and that is, do you consider ProPresenter Ops a part of the worship team? It sounds like a resounding yes to that, but you also said they're a leader. Define that a little bit more. What do you mean by they're a leader? They're obviously leading the congregation, but is that somebody you need to be looking for too, like a leader of people?
Yeah, so I don't want you to get caught up on the term leader in a, oh yes, this has to be someone with an official title and whatever. No, what I think about when I think about leader is the word influence. And so this is someone who is influencing what's going on during church. And so is it someone that they can't lead themselves to stay in the moment and stay on task? They're always checking their phones, or they're getting distracted by something else, or they're even getting distracted in worship. Then they're maybe not the right person for it. But not that some people can be trained out of that, by the way. But with that said, I think that it's really important to not put someone in this role that you would not trust to be influencing the congregation in this case, positive ways. So it's not a place where you go, well, we've got this rowdy kid that's always causing problems, so let's put him in the tech booth, which is a different room, so that they won't it won't be loud when they cause problems. Now, it could be that someone like that would bloom in that position and would quit causing problems other times. But I think that might be a surprise, as opposed to a let's move someone out of the way kind of thought process, because it actually is a leadership position. It is a situation where you are influencing people in some hopefully good ways.
Yeah, I like to think of my different positions as levels. So you have an entry level position. Maybe, you need somebody to put the pulpit out before the pastor talks, or I call them a spotter, somebody who sits with front of house and just watches the platform to help them, see when people are coming out. Maybe even a camera operator. Those are entry level positions. And then you have your kind of medium level position, which they actually influence people. They're actually leading the congregation in some capacity, front of house. Your video director and your ProPresenter Op, they are actually moving the congregation towards the goal. And they're also somebody that the entry level positions look up to. So they're going to take what they say with a little bit stronger, I don't know what the word is. They're going to be more serious about what this ProPresenter person says, or the director or the front house audio engineer. And then you have your third tier, which is your leaders. And those are the people that are top down leading the team in terms of setting the vision, where things are going to go. And they're kind of another level above the influencers. That's how I like to talk about those people. And it sounds like you're throwing that ProPresenter Op not into the entry level, which is where I think a lot of churches put them. They're like, oh, come run lyrics. It's your first week. Have fun. That's not the position that you want to be entry level. You want some training there. You want them to have some background and understand what's going on before you put them into that role. But I think with ProPresenter in tech, with all of it, technicians tend to get buried, well, in the technical. So giving that a church is always going to lean towards, hey, we want a whole bunch of tech. I'm a technician. I want a whole bunch of tech. I'm just not sure that's needed. And do you agree that, we should try to keep it simple and avoid over technifying it? Just make some words up here. In our pre-interview, you talked a little bit about the why behind the what. And so technicians who get buried in the technical and they want to do a whole bunch of tech, it complicates it for the senior pastor. We want to avoid that. Talk a little bit about the why behind the what. I thought that was really cool when you talked about that in the pre-interview.
Yeah, so the thing that I think that this is actually where I was going to go, that there are levels of technology that you would use in the church, and at the very basic level is removing distractions. So the reason we have a sound system is because we want people to be able to hear. That makes perfect sense. The reason you use ProPresenter is that it actually augments their learning and their ability to be a part of things. So I think that that's absolutely where we want to be as a basic level. Now, beyond that, you can augment things, and actually some churches will say, oh, you're distracting. I disagree. I think that just as God could have been content with making a world that, at least to us, was black and white. And there absolutely are people that are colorblind on some level. Usually it's not pure black and white, but they're missing some of the color receptors. But those are the exceptions. They're not the rule. So I think that we should strive to also augment with technology, but we should be careful in what our heart is doing with that. I've been to a concert where they sang Handel's Messiah, and they were not singing to Jesus. It was the exact same song that Handel had written as praise to the Lord God, and it was just, hey, look at this music that we can sing. Same exact thing. If you walked by, you might hear it and say, oh, technically they did a great job with this song, but they were not singing to Jesus. And on the other end of the spectrum, I've been in places where the music was iffy. Like, you're like, behind me, I've got a guitar. You do not want me playing guitar in your church. I have it. I know some chords, but it would be iffy. But if we were in a situation at my church where no one else was there, I would say, look, this is going to be iffy, but I'm doing this as an offering to the Lord, not because I think that I'm a great musician. And so that would be a situation where technically it's not as good, but the heart behind it is. So going back to your original question, when you go to a concert and it's the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, they pull out the stops, and that's, by the way, a musical metaphor for using an organ. They just go all out. I have never seen a church service, and I've been to a lot of churches, and I've seen a lot of stuff online. I've never seen a church service that was at that level of above and beyond, and you don't even know where they came up with this ideas. Usually the church services that some churches or some Christians say, oh, they're just performance, are entry level compared to some of the stuff that we see out in the world. And I think that that's a big problem that we as a church, I mean the capital C church, have, is that we'll decide that we can judge someone's heart based on how much effort that they put in and the results that they get, as opposed to talking to them and knowing, okay, why did you do this? Oh, that's a great reason why you did that. We couldn't do that in my church, but that's why you did that, which really matters. Like you said, the why behind the what. Why are you doing that? Why are you adding this tech in? Are you adding it in because, oh, I saw this cool thing? Or are you adding it in because you want to at least remove distractions, or better, a step above that, augment what's going on? If the heart behind either of those, if it's those reasons, I'm all for it. But if it's, hey, I want to do something cool technologically, and maybe people will even say, hey, look at what a great job you did. No, that's bad. No.
Yeah, technology for me is a creative aspect. I don't believe that it is just a technical aspect or a logistical aspect of what's happening in the worship service. As much as the ProPresenter operator is a part of the worship team, so are the cameras that are an instrument of worship. So is the ProPresenter software or the sound console. Those are all instruments of worship. And I believe they should be used creatively to enhance the service. But at the end of the day, the why behind the what is the vision? If what you're doing is taking it to another creative level inside the vision, which is your guardrails, then I'm good with it. The sky's the limit. But if you're just doing something to just be cool and it doesn't really fit inside the vision, then at that point, you're probably going a little bit too far. But for me, the secular world is setting the standard when it comes to creativity. And it used to be the church. The church used to have paintings and theater and things that just really set the standard for the secular world. And now it's the other way around. I would love to see that flip. I think we're heading in that direction where the creativity in some of these churches is off the charts. The concern for me would only be if it deviates from the vision. And honestly, churches are here to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. If we wanted ratings and more eyeballs, we could, throw that out into the garbage can and just do all kinds of crazy secular stuff. We'd get more eyeballs and we would get, more ratings. That's not why we're here. So it's not about the eyeballs and the ratings. It's about bringing people to Jesus. And so the vision of your church, the DNA of your church, if your creativity is inside those guardrails, the sky's the limit. If you're doing color changing and moving backgrounds and things of that nature that fit inside the vision, that aren't distracting people from the vision, then the sky's the limit. Do you agree with that?
I do. I think, going back to the heart really, really matters. I've also heard people say, oh, well, we can't use moving backgrounds because they're distracting. And I'm like, you've made a hard and fast rule there, but you haven't seen every moving background. There are some that, unless you're paying attention, you may not even know that they're moving. So there's that. There's also the fact that
or moving backgrounds that point people towards what you're singing. Right. Like at the cross, with a little background of a cross that's got some glitter moving inside the picture. That's pointing people to what you're singing, again, inside the guardrails.
The word distracting is like, it's the trump card for people without imagination. that, oh, that's distracting. Really? I mean, there's some stuff that I agree, absolutely distracting. If you put porn up in the middle of your church service, that's going to be distracting. Okay, we can all agree that that's distracting. But the fact that this background with the blues and the greens moves, is that going to distract everyone? No. Is it even going to distract most people? Not if they're used to it. So, yeah, I think that that's something that we should guard against, making the rule of, oh, we won't be distracting based on what we say is distracting that's not actually distracting. Like you said, the background can bring people towards Jesus. It can be something that is incidental to the song, or something that can augment it, or it could be something that distracts from it. But I think that there are a lot fewer of the last category than people that claim that everything like that falls into that category.
Paul, do you prefer ProPresenter drive all the other tech, like triggering lights from ProPresenter, or do you prefer ProPresenter be triggered by other devices like MIDI triggering ProPresenter? What do you think the best setup is?
Well, I think that, the most fun answer is it depends. And this is one of those. I have seen situations where automation is your best friend. Try as you might, you've done everything you can do to get more and more people on the team, and you just keep hitting a wall. Well, in that case, if you're a part of a church and there's one person that's running the tech, then by all means automate the heck out of that stuff. So I'm in favor of that in that situation. I'm not in favor of it when someone, again, the heart behind it, when they say, oh, I've only got volunteers, so since I've only got volunteers, I ought to automate it so that the poor volunteers don't mess up the service. I'd rather train people and get them to do a better job. With that said, there's another situation, and that is a situation where things change on the fly. And the reason for that, so in some churches they would say, oh, we're more spirit-led, so things change on the fly. I'm going to say something controversial here, in that the Holy Spirit is a member of the Trinity, part of the Godhead, has known his plans since the foundation of the earth or before. You can ask ahead of time. I'm saying the Holy Spirit, for his own good reasons, may not tell you, but you can ask. So keep that in mind. But with that said, there still may be situations where things change on the fly. And let's say that you've got a keyboardist that has a computer that's running Ableton Live, and they can see the hand gestures. Like a lot of times a worship leader will put their hand behind their back to make a gesture indicating, okay, we're going to verse 3 now. I can't see that from the back of the room. I can only see the front of the worship leader. But the person running Ableton Live can see, and so they can trigger the appropriate part of the loop and send MIDI to ProPresenter to fix that. So that can all happen without adding distraction. In fact, it can reduce distraction. So in that situation, I'm absolutely for it. So I guess it just goes back to the word, it depends. It depends on your church. It depends on your situation. It depends on how you do worship. And use the tools to make things better. Don't use the tools because you can or because you want to be lazy about some aspect of the ministry, I would rather spend extra time recruiting more people and not doing automation than to default to automation and not recruit people that it's going to be the joy of their life to serve in your church in this particular ministry.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of using people. I like using people. I feel like when they're trained appropriately and correctly, they will flow just like a worship leader flows. Whereas when you use automation, it causes a little bit more prep time. A lot of people think it eliminates work. It actually shifts the work from the day of to the week of. And so you got to keep that in mind too. But automation puts you on a fixed trail. So if you do want to flow and ebb and flow, or if you're that kind of church, then automation is probably not the right place for you. Now, maybe you use ProPresenter to trigger the lighting cues. So when the worship team flows to a different song, the ProPresenter is flowing the lighting with it as well. So again, like you said, it depends on what your situation is. But if you're a straightforward church with not a lot of people and a simple setup, automation may be the right move for you. But if you do a lot of ebb and flow and changes, then maybe automation isn't the right thing for you. And there's different types of automation too. There's ProPresenter automating other devices, and then there's other devices automating ProPresenter. Mm-hmm. But whatever you do, I believe that if you get into automation, you should always have a kill switch of some sorts that allows you to run it manually. Because at the end of the day, you don't want the automation running your service. You want you running your service. And so that's very important to me when I talk to teams about automation, is that they have that they have some form of switch that puts it all back into the operator's lap for them to drive things if there's a problem. Paul, what's the coolest ProPresenter setup you've ever seen?
Oh man, I have seen all kinds of stuff. One thing that is super powerful is there's a third-party piece of software called Companion, and it's from a company called BitFocus. And it was originally designed to be something that can run on a Stream Deck, which is just a hardware. I've got one right off to my left here.
Yeah,
it's
a little push button.
Yep. So I started with the original one that has 15 buttons. They make an XL. Now I have 2 of the XLs. So it has 32 buttons on the XLs. And the way the software works, you can have pages. So there are 99 pages of potential buttons that you can have to do stuff. So,
and you've used all 99, right?
Not even scratched the surface. I think I've got like 15, 20 pages of buttons. And I primarily use 3. But, so anyway, all that to say about that ProPresenter can control a lot of stuff. It can do MIDI, it can do several, depending on the version, the Mac and the Windows version have slightly different automation features. MIDI is on both of them, so you've got that. Well, if you integrate ProPresenter with Companion, you can do all kinds of other things. Like, for example, going back to the automation side of things, you can have a slide in ProPresenter trigger things that ProPresenter itself cannot trigger directly, and really get some tight control there. So the example that I give quite often is, we've got Easter coming up. Sorry if that's bad news to people. Not that it's Easter, but that you might be spending extra time at church. But let's say the pastor said, hey, we're going to show a clip of the Passion of the Christ, and when Jesus dies, I want the lights to go black. Well, in the old days, what I would do is I'd like get the attention of the lighting operator. Look at me. And I couldn't say anything because I'm in the back of the room. You know, you don't want to make any noise. So you're making these gestures. And of course, they're not looking right when you need them. And so you're making, and 3, 2, 1, now. No, now. You know, and it's just ridiculous. Well, now with ProPresenter, I could send a MIDI command to the lighting board and have it black out. Well, that's not the only thing you could do. You could also send a command from a slide in ProPresenter and have it lower shades in the sanctuary if you've got motorized shades. There's just an enormous amount of things that you could do. And I mean, part of the fun part of my job is I sometimes come up with things to have ProPresenter do that Renewed Vision finds out about that, and they're like, well, I guess it could do that. Yeah, that's some degree of fun. So I've seen people use ProPresenter to make games for their youth. You know, like Jeopardy or Family Feud, where people can choose things in any order and the appropriate things will stay selected on the screen at the appropriate times. There's just all kinds of stuff that you can do with it that, depending on your situation, could enhance and not distract.
Yeah, one of the coolest setups that I've been a part of was a church that set up a website where you could go onto the website and click that you'd been saved. That information was then pulled into ProPresenter and then put up on the screen so the congregation could see a tally of how many people were saved at the conferences and the church service that year. To me, that was the coolest setup that I've been a part of. It was very similar to the weather at the bottom of your TV screen, how it would kind of automatically update. ProPresenter would automatically update the information and put it up there on the screen so everybody could see it. I thought that was really neat. And yeah, the companion software in Stream Deck, these pieces, these tools allow you to do more with less people, allow you to control, screens and lighting and ProPresenter and trigger music and trigger tracks and things of that nature. Just very cool tools. I'm a church though, and I'm thinking, man, I really need this guy. I need him to come help me with my setup. I need him to train my team. So Paul, how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, probably the easiest way is just drop me a line, Paul at trinitydigitalmedia.com, and that's all spelled the normal way. So that's probably the easiest way to get in touch with me. If you're on Facebook, I run the official ProPresenter users community along with Renewed Vision. I've started, there's a ProPresenter community on Reddit that I've started to moderate as well. I didn't start that one, but I jumped in recently. So any of those are good ways to see me. I'm doing nearly every other weekend I go out and I do a ProPresenter training. So keep your eyes open. You may see an ad talking about a ProPresenter training that I'm doing in your area. I'd love to meet you in person. So any of those are great.
So to reach out to you, that's Paul at trinitydigitalmedia.com.
Yep.
So you can email Paul there, or you can go to his website, trinitydigitalmedia.com. At that site, you can ask questions, see training videos, and find a place that can help you. Trinity Digital Media, making church ministry understandable. trinitydigitalmedia.com. Paul, thanks for coming on and talking to us about ProPresenter.
Happy to. Anytime.
Well, that wraps things up for today's episode. I can't wait to talk to you on the next Tech Arts podcast. Until then, I'm David Leuschner, signing off by wishing you a great day and praying God blesses every moment of your week. See you soon.
You have been listening to the Tech Arts Podcast. Presented by Digital Great Commission Ministries. DGCM is a 501c3 nonprofit that was started to help churches with all things technical. Whether you need help building a team, finding the right gear, or just a better understanding of the church tech world, DGCM is here for you. Find out more about our free on-site visits, reports, and consulting by going to audiovideolighting.com. Digital Great Commission Ministries will help you run your church service like a pro. Find out more at audiovideolighting.com.
From sold-out stadiums to intimate live performance venues, sound engineers agree on one thing for the best digital mixing consoles for live sound. The only name that matters is Digico. As the recognized worldwide standard for live audio mixing, Digico consoles are renowned for their industry-leading sound quality and ease of use. Whether your application is in a church, broadcast, theater, corporate, sports, or installed sound, Digico offers compact and affordable products. From the S21 all the way up to the pioneering power of the Quantum 852, Digico delivers the workflow, the feature set, and the absolute reliability that the world's biggest tours and programs have come to rely upon. If you're looking for a sound console, look to Digico for your answer. For more information on Digico, go to digico.biz. That's digico.biz.
This podcast is brought to you by AC Americas, a distributor of lighting, audio, and video solutions. acamericas.net.
From front of house to center stage, for over 25 years, Earthworks microphones have sculpted the sounds of your favorite concerts, venues, and performances. Earthworks Audio is a sponsor of the Tech Arts Podcast. We are so happy to have them on board and excited to promote the new Earthworks SR117 vocal mic and capsules. To find out more about Earthworks Audio or to get your hands on this mic, go to earthworksaudio.com. That's earthworksaudio.com. Capturing emotion with sound. earthworksaudio.com.